Hello there and welcome back to another edition of Silly Car Showdown today. Now we are taking a look at the Bentley 8 litre, a big old British boat. This car was requested by Reverse Gear and it is from the good old days of motoring where they'd give you a chassis and then you had to find a coach builder to build the bodywork. If you want to find out more about the 8 litre, Clarkson did a voiceover for the Forza Motorsport 4 Forza Vista which contained this car. And he went on about it. It's a pretty magnificent story. The 8 litre is unfortunately a car which is kind of forgotten about in today's modern climate, but nevertheless we will add some relevance to it today. Now, as much as I would love to use the stock 8 litre engine in this vehicle, it can make a maximum of 400 horsepower with the supercharger, so we are going to need to do an engine swap, and our candidates are as such. A 3.2 litre inline 6 from a plebeian BMW, a 6.2 litre V8 from a plebeian Chevrolet, a 5.2 litre V10 from an Audi, and a 6.5 litre V12. Out of all of these engines, I think I'm going to go for the V10. Unfortunately, it's not the Viper V10, which would make more sense, but never mind. Anyways, of course, we cannot swap the driveline, so it has to make do with what it has, and we can't use any of the Forza Aero. I have literally no idea how that's supposed to work. We can't use any of the Forza Aero, which is fine by me because it all looks ridiculous. So there we go. Now we come to my biggest potential issue with this car. Tyres. I'm not expecting big tyre. Oh god, it's 175s. 225s. And is it the same on the... Yeah. Yeah. It's not going to be good. I don't expect this car to be quick. But then again, I'm sure that's not the reason it was requested. It was requested to be stupid, and I'm sure it will be very stupid indeed. Does that sort out some of that front... No, it doesn't. The front camber looks absolutely ridiculous on this car. Also, that launch stack is not filling me full of confidence, but still. We will do the weight reduction, probably get a hell of a lot of weight out of this car. It is surprisingly high PI. I was not expecting it to be S1 class yet. Maybe should have put the V12 in it, but of course we had the Gremlin, the V12 Gremlin, so I decided to go ahead and not use that. We haven't had a car use this Audi V10 yet, so may as well. And considering Bentley is kind of owned by the Volkswagen Group, which owns Audi, I guess it's a nice little bit of symmetry. But anyways, Jesus Christ, this engine makes more power than I remember. 1,212 horsepower, 831 foot-pound torque, 3,846 pounds of weight. 5.4 seconds to 60, a top speed of 184 miles per hour. That seems a bit wonky. I'll have to check the gearbox quickly just to make sure on that one. This also weighs 3,846 pounds, which is very heavy. I think this might be, apart from the Unimog, of course, one of the heaviest cars we've had on this series so far. I will just quickly check that gearbox. So being that's ridiculous. We are going to drag that in a little bit. That's not correct. There we go. Should be a little bit better for it now. I will only tune the cars in exceptional circumstances, but even that's just ridiculous. But anyways, even with gearbox tuning, I don't think it's going to help the big old Bentley out that much. I don't expect this to be a particularly quick car, but it will be a very British conquest around the course. Let's go see how many tons of death it can deal. So here we are at the track in our Bentley 5.2 litre. I don't know, the displacement upgrade probably changed it, but yeah, anyways, the Bentley is going to have 5 laps to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Alfa Romeo Stelvio with a 143.204. The Bentley unlikely to beat that. I'm not actually sure what the hell the Bentley is going to do. It depends on how bad the handling is. And I'm not expecting good things from it. Maybe the Super Deluxe, it's the slowest of all the normal cars we've had, a 153 813. I have a feeling that might actually get some company thanks to this one. Then again, this does have like 300 more horsepower than that did, so yeah, maybe not so much, but we'll have to wait and see. It's starting off ridiculous, I can tell you that much. Oh god. It feels very floaty, and the tyres do not feel good. It's kind of like it drives on ice, which isn't particularly a good thing, but you know, it sure is. Oh god, it's just very floaty, very weird. It's not massively quick as well. I don't know what it would have been like with the original gearbox in it. Maybe that would have helped alleviate some of the power issues, but I just sort of looked at that box and was just like, it's just not even going to really do anything. So, like I said, I really try not to tune the cars all that much, but with stuff like that where the benchmark's saying like under 200 miles per hour for a 1200 horsepower vehicle, I get a little bit suspicious. Especially, I've spoke about this before, with cars like the Bentley, although I guess it's sort of what's the opposite of what happened. There's stuff like the Bentley and the lower powered cars in the game. The game expects you to sort of keep them relatively low powered, so the Forza gearbox is sort of pre-tuned to not be particularly quick in some of the really low class cars, so you do have to keep an eye out for that. The Bentley's not actually that bad so far. I think it might actually, it feels really strange. It does not feel like a 1200 horsepower motor vehicle, I've got to be honest. It feels more like 600. I feel the weight might be helping. As much as you may think skinny tyres, a lot of weight and a lot of power don't necessarily mix, I think the weight is sort of helping the car from swaying around as much as, say, the station wagon did, which I can't actually remember how much the Deluxe weighed, but I'm fairly certain it was sort of closer to £3,000, whereas this is much closer to being £4,000. So yeah, maybe in a way the weight is helping this one out. Either way, it's a fascinating thing, certainly. Just how sort of composed it is to drive. I was not expecting it to be quite what it is, so yeah, I'm impressed with it, I will say that much. I'm not going to say I like it, because it does feel weird. It still feels like it's driving on ice. The tyres are way too small for it. And if you are going to, you know, customize this car and make it into something, probably wouldn't advise doing this, but it isn't quite as bad as I'd expect. Ooh, pretty good through the cross change there as well, which is nice. The good old switchblade. Yeah, it definitely likes to slide, there's no question about that. And it's definitely not massively quick. Again, just the weight and the power of the vehicle, actually, it's a lot slower than you'd expect. I guess sort of you could make a joke about the fact this thing is about the size of a bleeding Unimog, but still, even on its flying lap of 159.487, I don't think that was a particularly great lap, but still not particularly amazing in general, but we will have to see. Yeah, it's just not... It's kind of almost disappointing in a way. I was expecting it to be a lot quicker, a lot... It sort of more just feels like it's down on power. It feels more like it's a 500 horsepower vehicle than one with 1200 horsepower. So yeah, bit of a strange one, really. The Bentley. Curious and curiouser. Down the Glasgow Smile. I mean, it can barely do 140 down there. And as we've discussed before, you know, a lot of cars down there are getting 150. 150 seems to be about the average, and then you got stuff like the Stelvio and the GT40, which can go closer to 160 down there. So the fact that Bentley can't do it is a little bit disheartening, I guess. Because like I said, I was expecting a really quick straight line car, but not particularly great things through the corners, but it actually just turned out to be a bit naff at both. There's not really much more to say on the case of the old Bentley. I will say, as soon as I saw someone request the 8 litre, I was like, I've got to have a go with that, because it is going to turn out silly. There's no way it could be sane. The older Bentleys in the game, I don't really use them all that often. I quite like them being around though, just because it's kind of fun to have classics you can do silly things with. Like in real life, no one would ever stick a V10 in a Bentley 8 litre, you know, sort of an Audi Lamborghini V10 into one of these things, but, you know, I guess it's almost a resto mod, but not really. I mean, the GT40 was more of a resto mod. If this had the Continental W12 in it, then maybe, but there's no way in God's green earth that thing is fitting under the bonnet of this thing. I'm not really sure what engine this has. I know it's an 8 litre. I can't remember if it was a 12 cylinder or not. I think looking at it in Auto Vista, it was sort of like 2 inline sixes pushed together. So I'm assuming it is a V12 of some description. Or, again, it could be a W12, could be a V16, not too sure. I'm not really... People who watch the DLC videos that I produce probably are well aware at this point. I'm not much of a historian at this point, you know, cars that are... I mean, this thing's coming up to its 100-year anniversary at some point. I'm not particularly good on cars that are, you know, well over 80, 90 years old. Or even, you know, cars from the 50s. My sort of recollection of car culture sort of comes around the 70s, or it starts 70s-ish, but more so 80s is when I can really start chewing your ear off about all sorts of weird and wonderful crap. Ooh, I was not quite expecting that. Yeah, we haven't had anything like ridiculously high. We haven't had anything like a Hilux or I don't know if the Hilux has race suspension in this game. That was a much better lap apparently, a 156.054. Still looks like it's going to be a fair way down on the station wagon though. The good old wooded wanker seems to have finally met a car to go underneath it. It looked like the Sentra was going to be that car last time. But you never know, there is still one more lap for the Bentley, maybe it will pull itself ahead slightly, but I do doubt it. I'd love to see what this thing would be like with bigger tyres, because I feel like if this thing had bigger tyres it would be a really nice handling car. It still would not be quick, but it'd be nice handling at least. But it stands, as I said earlier, it's just sort of a bit naff really. The handling's a bit crap, it likes to, you know, fly itself around a little bit, but it's not uncontrollable, it's not going to try and, you know, spin you out or anything. And the engine just doesn't seem like it makes as much power as it claims, you know, 1200 horsepower, how many pounds-foot of boost are we making? We're making 25 boosts. It's got 800 foot-pound of torque, but it really does not feel like it. Really does not feel like it at all. So, curious. We hits. I have literally no idea what we hit there, but apparently it was something. Yeah, it's just sort of. It's silly. Again, it's stupid. Don't get me wrong. It is perfect for Silly Car Showdown, but in terms of you want my actual faults on it, it's just. It's just I've driven sillier stuff than this, and I've driven more surprising stuff, and yeah, it is what it is. But anyways, the Bentley probably would have been quicker if we had gone ahead and, or it probably would have been quicker if we hadn't hit that barrier, but I still don't think it would have been enough to get close to the Woody wagon. the Bentley 8 litre, or I'm just going to call it the Bentley whatever capacity it currently has. It's probably like a 6 litre or something. It goes into it goes into 156th place. It goes into 10th place with a 156.05. It is just over 2 seconds down on the Ford Super Deluxe wagon. It is 11 seconds, almost 12 seconds up on the Unimog. It's obviously not. It's obviously going to be quicker than the Unimog. But yeah, it is now our slowest car. I don't think there's much of a surprise, but it's a slow car for... Well, it's a slow car in a straight line, which I wasn't really expecting. I was sort of expecting this thing to be hard to handle and, you know, definitely challenging the Wood Boy, but yeah, no, it's a little bit disappointing. There's not really all that much to say about it, but there you go, that's where the cookie crumbles sometimes. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching this edition of a Silly Car Showdown. If you'd like to request cars for the series, you can do so in a couple of ways. One way is to comment on the video, either on my channel or on HD Central. Alternatively, you can go into my Discord, link in the description below, and put your request in the requests form, which I would prefer because it keeps everything in one nice, concise place. If you have enjoyed this video and you're watching on HD Central, you can come over to my channel for some subpar 6 out of 10, more 5 out of 10 content on a daily basis, and you'll see these videos a day earlier if you so desire. And other than that, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.